Global Publishing presents Cash Flow with Ron LeGrand.
All right. Right now I want to deal with how to find a good attorney. Now I could insert attorney jokes here. Really, there is only one attorney joke. The rest are true stories. Some would say the way to find a good attorney is to get a shovel and start digging. You know how to get an attorney out of a tree? Cut the rope. Yeah. You know the difference between God and an attorney? God don't think he's an attorney. Oh no, I'm not going any further. Enough's enough. Besides, I love attorneys. That is, if they're my attorney. I don't like the ones on the other side. Look, attorneys are a very, very, very important part of your business, any business. And do not sell them short. Because for you to try to run a business without the use of legal counsel and legal services is a foolish thing for you to do. That means you're your own attorney with absolutely no training. I don't even know how many attorneys, at least 20. They all have their own purposes. I try not to put them all in one place because then they breed and get out of hand. Just kidding, attorneys. Just kidding. Besides, my best attorney jokes come from attorneys. I know them all. I wouldn't dream of getting into a commercial deal without an attorney. In my earlier days, I did most of my residential deals without attorneys, and I don't even want to do that anymore. They cost so little, they save so much, they prevent so many problems. Now, of course, sometimes they cause problems, but frankly, the ones that cause problems are the ones that I'm not going to be working with. So, I'm going to suggest to you that all of you get one or more real estate attorneys on your team. They are not hard to find. They are not hard to pre-screen. There's some things worthy of discussion about finding an attorney. First of all, the attorney darn sure better be a real estate attorney. You don't go hire a divorce attorney to handle real estate closings and real estate documents and real estate litigation. You don't hire a real estate attorney to do litigation. Litigation is a specialty. Real estate is a specialty. Divorce is a specialty. Some attorneys have more than one specialty. Some firms have many specialties within the firm. In fact, most of them do. But the first thing you need to understand is that every attorney doesn't know everything there is to know about the law. In fact, some of them are dumber than a box of rocks. Especially when it comes to things like land trust, which very few attorneys really take the time to learn because they have no need unless some real estate investor broaches the subject. They have it confused with a business trust of some sort that requires an ID number and a tax return and a federal report and all that stuff, of which none of which a land trust requires. Some attorneys will bend over backwards to make your job easy, to make your business run smoothly, because they get it and they're user-friendly. Some attorneys do everything they can to kill everything that comes in front of them because they think that's their job. An attorney's responsibility is to point out legalities and try to keep you on the right track and make sure the paperwork is done properly when they're in the mix. They are not to make decisions for you. They do not think for you. They do not give you advice on how to get rich. How the heck would they know? They're not rich, because if they were, they wouldn't be doing what they do. You're going to need an attorney very quickly into your business, because if you will listen to me, they're going to close your subject to purchases. In fact, they're going to close all your purchases. So if you're going to go do deals, it's only a few days from now when you're going to need an attorney. So the time to start looking is before the day before you need them. Easy to find them. The best place is to get referrals from others. And that others is a pretty long list. Realtors know where the good attorneys are. They don't want pain in the neck attorneys any more than you do. They're looking for the same kind of attorneys you're looking for. Real estate attorneys that are easy to work with. And if you ask 2 or 3 realtors and you get the same name, you probably found your guy or gal. Real estate organizations, real estate RIAs, real estate investor associations, they all have attorneys in them and know of the right attorneys. The people in them quite frequently use the same attorneys in the same city. An easy place to find an attorney is to go to your title company or escrow company and ask if there's an on-staff attorney. If there's an on-staff attorney at a title company, do you think they know real estate? Do you think they deal with all the things that bother you day in and day out? That's all they do. Now, most of them can take outside business and have their own clientele. You probably have found your attorney just that fast. And what better attorney to work with than one who's sitting right on top of a title company and understands real estate because they do it day in and day out. You should not deal with an attorney you don't like. I have a very simple rule about people I deal with. If I can't stand the thought of going to lunch with them, I ain't going to deal with them. You see, I'm the one writing the check. I'm the one that gets to choose who I deal with. And I'm not going to deal with people that I just can't think about. If it bothers me just to even get on the phone because I don't even want to talk to them, why the heck would I want to hire them? I can tell you right now, I don't have any of those kind of attorneys working with me. Not a one. And I can also tell you it's because we fired a few. I'm not going to take their crap. I'm not going to allow them to run my life, jerk my chain, procrastinate, and make me sit around and wait until they get around to me. I want an attorney that is responsive. That's my number one criteria. Of course, it'd be kind of cool if they knew what they were doing. And I have that conversation right up front with them. Because we hire attorneys regularly. You know as active we are in commercial properties. Every time we buy a commercial property in some city, we have an attorney in that city. I just was on the phone with an attorney during break. And I like this attorney. Because he's actually trying to make things happen and get things closed. He's closing a bunch of stuff for us now. I've never even met him. But I talked to him 2 or 3 times. I wouldn't mind having lunch with him. And I don't mind it when he calls me, and I don't dread the idea of calling him. Because he is very aware that I don't want any long drawn out worthless conversations about junk that doesn't matter, and I've never met an attorney that does either. They want to talk about the subject, they want to get to the point, and they want to get on with it so they can get on to some other business. And he's also very aware, because I made him aware, that one of the criteria of doing business with me is that you are responsive. If you want me, you got me. You call me, I'll call you back the first chance I get. And it will not be measured in days. It'll be measured in hours, maybe minutes. And there is no attorney that is so busy that they're going to convince me, it takes a week for them to get back to me. And you know what? If they are that busy, they're too busy for me. Because if it takes them a week to get back to me, how long is it going to take them to get anything done? It's called pre-screening. Whack them. Get them out of your life. We've had several of those like that. We've literally fired them. We send a letter. We can't do business together. You're not responsive enough, and I frankly can't wait on you. See ya. It's over. If an attorney sends you a engagement letter, you ought to make a note. Put it in there that they promise to respond to you within 24 hours of your contact with them. It works two ways, you know. You want to do all this stuff. You're sending me a contract, obviously that favors you. Now we're going to stick something in here that favors me. And by the way, if they don't like that, what does that tell you? Don't sign an engagement letter. You're probably going to have a better relationship with an attorney in a small firm with less than 5 lawyers than you are in any large firm. That may be true, may not be true. But the problem with large firms is that attorneys come and go, and another problem with large firms is every time you want to get something done, it takes 3 lawyers. Whenever you have a meeting, there's 3 lawyers sitting there. And who thinks 2 of them are sitting there for free? They don't even ask you. They just bring in 2 or 3 lawyers. You get the bill. God, I didn't tell you to come to the meeting. The upside of that is that sometimes, you need more brains than one, especially if you're in some kind of heated litigation. Truthfully, if I'm in some kind of a heated litigation, I want all the help I can get. I'm not afraid of litigation. Litigation is a business tool. And I'm not afraid of attorneys. Don't make their fee your focal point. That's focal point. Focus more on what they can do for you and your gut feeling about how they're going to handle your problem. Think less about what they charge, because truthfully, here's the long and the short of it. It don't make a bit of difference what their hourly fee is. It's all in the pencil anyway. Regardless of whether they're charging you $100 an hour or $300 an hour, the bill's going to come out to what they want it to be. Isn't it? And have you ever seen an attorney's bill? If you've seen an attorney's bill, you will never find one item beside a charge. The items are always grouped together, so you have no clue how much time they spent on that group. They teach that in attorney billing school. The long and the short of it is, you're going to pay whatever they charge you. It makes no difference what their hourly rate is. See, you assume they're billing you for the actual hours they work. There ain't an attorney that's ever lived that bills for actual hours worked. There's an old joke. Guy checks into heaven. St. Peter says, well, I see you're 120 years old. No, I'm not. I'm only 60. Oh, well, based on your billing hours, I thought you were at least twice that age. In reality, the truth is this. If you've got a good attorney that's helping you make you money and doing what they're supposed to do and they're responsive, it really don't matter what they charge. You're going to be happy to pay it. I don't want some kid just out of college. I want somebody that's got some experience. I don't want them to get trained at my expense. Let them get trained at somebody else's expense. Experience is something you cannot buy. It can only come with time. And if they don't have the time, they don't have the experience, and I don't care what they say. I don't want some 25-year-old kid as my attorney. First of all, we're probably not going to communicate all that well. Because I have a hard time with a 25-year-old kid telling me what I ought to do and what I ought not do. And, I'm going to whether I intend to or not, take any advice I get from 25-year-old with a grain of salt. Because I don't care what they say. They can't know all that much. They haven't had time. You old geezers understand that. You kids will violently disagree. For now. Next, you must make sure that you have a meeting of the minds about the things that may agitate your attorney, such as closing subject to deals. Some attorneys will not close over a subject to deal because they know the lender can call the loan due. I mean, it ain't going to hurt them any. But it's their choice not to do that closing. And if that's their choice, there's nothing you're going to do to change that policy. You're not training an attorney. They cannot be trained. Whack 'em and move on. Because the next conversation you'll have will be, well, I don't have any problem closing subject to deals. I do it all the time. Why do you ask? And that's the way it is. You know, you find the right people, they make it easy for you. You may have trouble with attorneys selling properties and doing a wraparound device around a subject to deal. So you better make sure that's not an issue for them. Some attorneys make money on title insurance. I mean, all attorneys make money on title insurance. Some literally won't do a real estate deal unless the policy is written. Why? Because their check is reduced. And that's the only reason, regardless of what they say. Well, we want to make sure you're protected. Well, you can protect me cheaper. I don't need insurance, so why are you trying to force it down my throat? Land trust, another sore issue, huh? How many of you have ever had an attorney tell you that land trust won't work here? Well, sure. The reason they tell you land trust won't work here is because they don't understand land trust. They have it confused, or because there's no state statute in their state concerning land trust. And if there's no state statute concerning land trust, then all of a sudden, well, it won't work here. Well, they're full of crap. Land trust works in 50 states. It even works in Pennsylvania, but you don't want to use it there. I got students in all 50 states using land trust. It will work. But why try to beat it into them if they're convinced? It won't. The smartest thing to do is to replace them with somebody more user-friendly. Whack 'em. Once you locate your attorney, use them. Use them. Let him do your closings, buying and selling. Let him do your leases. Let him form your entities. Let him form your LLCs. I got an attorney in Jacksonville that is literally an LLC factory for me. I'm not kidding you. He's always working on at least one, and sometimes 2 or 3 simultaneously. I got over 30 of them. 30 different entities. And more coming. Every time I buy a commercial property, it's a new LLC. Every time I venture out into something else like restaurants, it's a new LLC. He's always forming them. And the good news is, all he's got to do is change what's applicable. The rest of it is all the same. I got it down to a science. When he pops them things out, I just read the paragraphs that I care about, because the rest of it, nobody can stay awake long enough to read. And if you do, you're only half awake. And you didn't understand what you just read. Trying to get through it. I don't know how he does it. I'll guarantee you, you can't be an attorney that deals with agreements all day and be a reptile brain like me. I don't know how anybody can sit there and read so many agreements. But hey, he does what he does and I do what I do. By the way, I make more money. If you spent your whole life and rarely used an attorney, you've got to change that. And you got to open yourself up and know that an attorney is an expense that you must incur if you're going to run a business correctly. The legal advice that you will get from attorneys will make you a lot of money and save you a lot of money. You got to ask for it. You got to let them know you really want it. And then you got to use that which you think is applicable in that manner in which you feel comfortable using it. What you don't do is listen to attorneys and do everything they say just because they said it without questioning them. If you question them, sometimes they'll get a different attitude of what your intent was and very well may agree that that's not the right thing to do. You have the right to question their suggestions. They will not get mad. And by the way, if they do, correct. You know. Hire the best attorney you cannot afford. They're cheap. And remember, attorneys won't teach you how to get rich. I can do that. They can't. I qualify. They don't. My attorney doesn't even attempt to give me advice on making money. My CPA doesn't attempt to give me advice on making money. That's not why I pay them. Besides, any advice that they give me would be a very conservative, thinker brain approach. Who thinks that approach would apply to me? You see, I do things that would put attorneys and CPAs in absolute overdrive and make them nuts and crazy because they don't understand, how a guy can move so fast and get so much done, because it ain't normal, is it? Who wants to be normal? God, I don't want to be normal. Do you want to be normal? I don't want to be normal. If you're a fast mover, high achiever, get things done kind of person, you're going to have to associate yourself with people who understand and can live with your chosen method of life. And a lot of them can't. My agreement attorney here in Jacksonville spits these things out quickly, communicates with me instantly, and I return that favor. Does what he says he's going to do when he says he's going to do it. Charges me a reasonable rate and watches my back. What else could I ask him to do? Now, I will tell you that his ex-partner, who was a very good talker and a decent litigator, didn't have those traits. When I needed him for litigation, he was there. I'll give him that. Any time of the day and all times of the day. But boy, if it wasn't a heated rush and it didn't need to be done right now, you could not get him to return the call. You had to chase him to get anything done, and it took forever. Guess what? He ain't our attorney anymore. We whacked him. We whacked him, but we didn't whack the firm because we recognized that he left the firm, incidentally, because we recognized that people in the firm did not have those traits, and they were just as irritated mad at him as we were. So they whacked him and started their own firm. Remember what I was telling you earlier about people who don't have any system in organizing their time and they can't keep their promises? Well, don't take long to catch up to you. So, it ain't hard to find an attorney. And I really don't know why people have any trouble finding an attorney. If they do, it's because they're not asking. People ask me all the time, can you give me the name of a good attorney? My answer is, yeah, the phone book is plumb full of them. You ain't going to have to interview more than a couple before you're going to find your attorney. And if you do what I say, if you back into the referral first and they guide you to the attorney, your first one may be your only one you need. But again, If you want to go to war and you got to fight, you better make sure you got a good litigator. And most real estate attorneys will tell you they're not litigators. You know, there's a totally different mindset to go to court and fight a battle in court than to do real estate documents all day long. It's a totally different makeup. You got to love to fight to be a litigator. And most real estate attorneys hate to fight. When I'm looking for a litigator, I'm looking for a dirty, rotten, mean SOB. And if I ask people, who's the nastiest, meanest attorney you know? And that's who I want to call. And then when I call that attorney, I say, so-and-so says you're a dirty SOB, mean, nasty, and rotten. Is that true? And they say, well, yeah, I guess so. Well, good. That's why I called you. Because I got a litigation issue to talk about to you, and if I start this litigation issue, I expect you to have no mercy. Proceed as if we're going to win, because we're not stopping till we do or we don't. I'm in litigation right now. I'm suing a company that promised to loan me money and took a bunch of my money and made me a commitment that they did not fulfill. It's been 2 years. Still in the works. I doubt anybody has been in their deal 2 years. See, their tact is, wait it out, it'll go away. Not while I'm alive anyway. I ain't going away. I'm going to court. And I'm going to have my day in court. Win or lose, I'm having my day in court. It's a man thing. Okay, got the attorney on your team. You found an attorney. Now you've got all your paperwork done. Now you find your attorney, if you haven't already, and I hope you have already. Now you got to get a title search done. That's the next step. Always the next step. Got to get a title search done. Do not ignore this step. Because if you do, you might wind up selling a property that's got a title problem and come back and bite you in the fanny. You don't want to put a property on the market unless you know the title is clear, meaning there's no hidden problems that would prevent you from delivering clear title to your buyer. Now, clear title means marketable title, which means, yes, we know there's a mortgage on there. Yes, we know there might be some property taxes that haven't been paid yet because it isn't time. But that's all we know about. And we don't want to know about anything else that's on there. But you better know about it, because if you don't and you sell it, that lien's going to go with that property. And you tell somebody you got clear title and you don't have clear title, they got no choice but to come back on you. And by the way, do you know when you sign a warranty deed, you're guaranteeing the title? That's what the word warranty means. And you're guaranteeing it forever, or as long as you're alive, at least for the time you had it and prior. A special warranty deed, which is what a bank will make you sign, says that they're only guaranteeing the title during the time they had it. A quitclaim deed, Q-U-I-T, says that we're not guaranteeing squat. I'll guarantee you that if I've got any interest, it is now yours, but I'm not guaranteeing you I have any interest. In other words, I could quitclaim this hotel to you guys, but if I were you, I wouldn't be going out and firing the staff just yet. Because you don't own squat. All you own is my interest in this hotel. As far as I know, it's none. So when you sign a warranty deed to a seller, it'll be a warranty deed from your land trust, won't it? Say yes. Okay, good. That means that your land trust is warranting the title for the rest of its life, which is over. Because the minute it transfers the title to the property that's in it, there is no land trust anymore. So the trust is guaranteeing the title. A trust which doesn't exist anymore. If your name, however, signs the bottom of that deed because you're the owner, you do exist. If you get a title search, you will know that most of these problems aren't there. But please do not assume that just because you got a title search or you got a title insurance policy that you're exonerated forever. Because a title insurance policy does not cover everything. If a lien was not against the property during the time they did the search, they are not responsible for it. They're only responsible for what's a matter of public record. If you own a property in your own name and it is later discovered that it has environmental problems under the ground, who's liable for those environmental cleanups? Somebody you know and have grown to love. It's you, baby. It's you and everybody in the chain of title back to Moses. The EPA doesn't care who caused the environmental problems. They only care who's got the deepest pockets and can clean them up. They will go after anybody and everybody in the chain of title as far back as they can go. And if that's you and your name, are you in that list? Yeah. If that's a land trust and a land trust name, are you in that list? No. Let them go after the land trust. They can get everything they can squeeze out of it, which is nothing. You should never offer a property for sale until you first determine that it's sellable. And you cannot do that until a professional goes and does a title search. What do I mean by a professional? Well, it ain't you. The last thing you ever want to do or be caught done by me is down at a courthouse checking a title. I will hurt you big time if I catch you down at a courthouse doing a title search. You got no business down there. None, nada, zippo. First, you don't even know what you're looking at. Second, you don't know where to look. Third, you're going to miss stuff. And fourth, you don't know how to interpret it if you did see it. That's not your job. Title search, you can quite often get done for free if you're dealing with the same entity over and over again. Worst case, you pay $50, $75, $100. Who cares? It's a requirement. All right, due diligence buying precautions. On the next page. You must get the title checked. This is before you close if you have anything at risk. This does not apply if you choose for it not to apply if you have nothing at risk. Now, number one does, checking the title. Risk or no risk, you need to get that done because you're about to sell it to somebody else and incur risk, even if you don't have any money in it. ARV, I would certainly want to know what the ARV is before I spend too much time on the property. I'd check that before I bought it. Verify cost. Repair costs are substantial. If I'm going to close on it and raise the money to do the repairs, I want to know what the repair costs are before I buy, don't you? Or maybe we should just buy and hope for the best. If you buy and hope for the best, you're going to get the worst. Termite report. If I'm buying a property and I'm at risk because I'm raising money or spending money, I want to know if the bugs have eaten my wood. I want to know now, not after I buy and find out what wood. There ain't none left. Fixing termite damage can get pretty expensive if they've had their way for a while. And if I got problems, I want to know. And if I intend to rehab the house, I want to know how much that part of that rehab is going to cost. And just as important, I want the termite company that's doing the inspection to come back and do the inspection after I fix the wood. They're just going to go inspect what they told me was wrong to begin with, so I'll get a clean report. I want the termite report before I buy. Now, does that apply if I'm getting a deed and I'm not putting up any money? Probably not. But it wouldn't be a bad idea, would it? And think of what those guys do for that piddly amount of money you're paying them for that termite report. Can you imagine putting on overalls and crawling under this house and the slime and the muck and looking the snakes in the eyes and the rats and whatever else is under there to check the wood to see if it's got termites or rot? Gee, I think I'd rather be a dentist. What some people convince themselves they need to do for a living, eh? House inspection, almost as bad. House inspection is something you should get. It costs $200, $300, $400 before you buy a house and go spending money on it and going to rehab it and raise money and all that. You're going to learn a lot from a house inspection. Every single commercial project we buy, we send an engineer to the scene and he gives us a book this thick. There ain't much we don't know about their property when he's done. If it's got a building, we get a building inspection. But even if it's not got a building, we still get the book. We ought to do the same with a house. And it's also a good tool to use to sell with. There it is. There's everything they want to know. Good, bad, or ugly. By the way, if it's bad, put on there fixed or repaired. It's a good tool. And loan verification. Now that's not hard to get. They'll give it to you with an authorization to release, and or you can pick up the telephone, call the lender's number with the social security number of the borrower in front of you, punch it in, and it'll tell you what the loan balance is and if it's current. I'd rather have it in writing, but hey, that's good enough for me if I don't have any money invested. If I do have money invested, I want that verification in writing. Okay, you're never at risk just because you got a deed. If I got a deed, can I undo the deed? If I haven't recorded the deed, how do I go about undoing a deed? Works like this. No deed. Oh, you mean you don't have to keep it? Nope. I just tore it up if I haven't recorded it. If I have recorded it and I don't want it anymore, what do I do? The answer? Pick up phone, call seller. Not going to work out. I'm going to deed it back to you. Where do you want me to send it? Now, I'm going to tell you, a deed is not really valid unless the receiver accepts it. But that wouldn't stop me from recording it just the same. But if it's in a land trust, what do I care? If it goes to foreclosure, it goes to foreclosure. I've done my deal. I said, I'll send it back. If they want to go record it, they can go record it. If they lied to me, they lied to me. Because that's about the only time I'd ever give a house back. I'll find a way to fix the problem if it's if I made a promise. But if they made a promise and they didn't keep it, and I go find out a bunch of crap that I didn't know because they lied, they're going to get it back. If they don't want it back, they're getting it back anyway. I had these in downtown Jacksonville when I was in my earlier days. I had these 3 big piece of crap buildings side by side. Apartments is what they were, in one of the worst areas of town. A bar across the street. I just did not want them anymore. The bank foreclosed on them, and they wouldn't even bid at the sale. They didn't want them. Them properties sit there for years. And finally, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to deed these properties to the mayor. Then my attorney pointed out to me that would not be a good idea. Besides, it's not a valid deed anyway unless the mayor accepts them. And somehow I didn't think the mayor wanted to accept those deals. All right, what should I record? Followed by, what should I insure? What should I record is a good question. And the answer is, If you're buying for cash, you always have the deed recorded. You record the deed. You don't. Your attorney does. If you're buying for cash and you're closing without an attorney, you're an idiot. You're at extreme risk. The attorney will do the closing and record the deed. You don't need to worry about it. If you're taking over a loan subject to and you're getting the deed, your attorney will record it if you tell them to. If it's a short sale prospect, they won't if you tell them not to until you tell him to. If you're buying with owner financing, you better record the deed, because they're going to record the mortgage and the note or the deed of trust for sure. And believe me, whoever closes that is not going to record part of it. They're going to record it all. If you're selling and it's a cash sale, it's out of your hands anyway. Don't worry about it. Somebody else is going to take care of it. If you're selling on a lease option, there is no deed to record, nor is there anything to record. And in fact, if you're selling, the last thing you want is something recorded. When you're selling, it is not in your best interest to have anything recorded to cloud your title. But if you're selling with owner financing, it's going to get recorded anyway. Because your attorney's probably not even going to let you hold that document off of recording, especially if your buyer doesn't know about it. And if your buyer knows about it, they're going to want to record it. And it is the law in many states that it is recorded anyway. That's about it. What you don't record is your land trust agreement. Under no circumstances do you record your land trust agreement, unless you live in Arizona, where they want you to. And if they want me to record a land trust agreement in Arizona, it's not a problem. I'll record it. But if I do, I won't be the beneficiary. One of my entities will be the beneficiary. Or I'll scribble the beneficiary's name on it and you won't be able to read it. Whatever they'll let me do. Because they say record the land trust agreement doesn't mean that I have to blindly record who the beneficial interest is in that land trust agreement because they want me to. Well, it means I do, but it doesn't mean that the world has to know that I have anything to do with that beneficial interest. See you in entity structuring class. You never record a purchase and sale agreement so the world can know your deal. You never record a lease purchase agreement. If you do, you've told everybody what the deal is. You only record a deed and possibly an affidavit and memorandum concerning real estate, which I'll get to here in just a second. Anything you record will require a notary and a witness. Anything you don't record does not require a notary or a witness. There's a place for them many times, but who's going to require it? The courthouse will require it if it's being recorded. So if you're going into a house and you're doing a tabletop closing and you're getting the deed, there has to be a notary somewhere close by that you can take them to or bring to you. Cab drivers have notaries, some of them. Have notary, will travel. For a fee, they'll come notarize it. Grocery stores have notaries. Banks have notaries. Kincos have notaries. There's notaries everywhere. But if you're going to get a deed, it's got to be notarized or you're not recording it. So you don't want the seller to crawl into the U-Haul till you get it notarized. And that notary can be one of the witnesses. When to buy insurance. This is a totally misunderstood subject here, so I'm going to deal with it. And the answer is you buy insurance when you own the home. If you don't own the home, you can't insure the home. If you have an insurance policy on a house you don't own, that you own, and you're not the insured, it's not insured. An insurance policy to the seller does not insure you when that seller transfers ownership. You do not assume an insurance policy from a seller. You cancel it when you get a new one. The seller has got owner-occupant insurance with liability and furniture coverage and all of that. You are going to get a landlord policy with no insurance on the interior contents. And your policy is going to be cheaper than the owner-occupant policy. You're going to have to get a policy when you know it's a deal and you're going to move it forward. If you're getting a deed on a short sale prospect and you're not recording the deed, you don't buy insurance because you don't know if you got a deal. When you're getting the deed on a house you fully intend to bring the payments current on, or on a house that the payments are already current on, and you intend to lease option it out to a tenant buyer, you better get it insured. Because you're going to keep that insurance in place until that tenant buyer cashes you out. Tenant buyers don't insure property. They don't own it. They insure the contents if they want, but they do not insure the property. Now, if I'm going to get a deed and I'm going to sell the property with owner financing, and I intend to do it quickly, I'm not going to buy an insurance policy. I'm going to let the insurance policy from the seller ride until I find my buyer who's going to get a new insurance policy, because they must. They're the owner. I'm not the owner. They're the owner. They must insure it and name me as the second or third mortgagee, or my entity, my land trust. When I get evidence from my buyer that's insured and that I'm named on the policy, then it's time to cancel the one from the seller. However, when that insurance is written, it must also name the underlying lender as first mortgagee, and a copy of it sent to that lender. Your insurance company will do that if they know the mortgage exists, and they better, because if you don't name the mortgagee on the insurance policy, the mortgage company will force place their own policy. You will pay the premium, and there's nothing you can do about it. They won't force place insurance if there's insurance already there and they have it in their file. Oh, but won't they know the loan transferred, and won't they call the loan due when they see a new name on the policy? Yeah, they probably will, because they got somebody down at the bank that's just waiting to pounce on people when insurance name changes, because they don't do anything all day but call loans due. There is no such person at the bank, and frankly, nobody down there give a rat behind. What they have to make sure is done is that the property is insured. They don't really care who got the policy, and they don't even notice that it's in a different name. They just know the house is insured, and their name is mortgagee, so if it burns, they're going to get it, they got to sign off on the check. Quit worrying about the bank will find out I bought it. They don't care. And if you don't believe it, get up the nerve to call one of them and ask them. Can't tell you how many times I've talked to banks and I said, I own this property now. Oh, okay, let me tell you where to send the payment. They don't care. But they do care if it's not insured. And so should you. So, in a nutshell, if you bought it and you know you're going to keep it, insure it. If you bought it, you're going to sell it with owner financing, let them insure it. Going to sell it with lease purchase, you insure it. If you got a property under contract that you're going to flip, you can't insure it anyway. You don't own it. If you're buying a property that you're going to rehab, you better darn sure insure it. Because if you don't, it's burning that night. Slap down to the ground because you got all that cash in it. So when do I buy two policies? Never. You never need two policies on a house because only one of them is going to pay off anyway. And that's the one written to the current owner. Won't do you any good to leave the policy on there from the seller and then you put another one on there and get paid twice. It ain't going to work like that. You ain't getting paid twice, and if you do, one of them's coming back after you with the law in tow. So, well, how do I pay for insurance? Ain't it supposed to be in the escrow account? Well, yes, it is. If you take over a debt and they're collecting taxes and insurance, they're collecting 1/12 of the total premium every month so that next year they can pay the bill. Therefore, you're not going to get the bank to pay for your insurance that you just bought. It ain't time yet. You've got to come out of pocket and pay a full year's premium for the policy. And then, if the bank has got that policy in their file, the insurance company will bill them from that point on. But you're paying for the first year out of pocket. Next is this neat little agreement called the Affidavit and Memorandum Concerning Real Estate. This is a little document that I discovered a few years ago when a seller agreed to sell me their house, and then they turned around and sold it behind my back to somebody else, and then they skipped town. If a seller signs a contract with you, they've signed a legally binding agreement that you can enforce and block them from selling it to anyone else if you know they're doing it. Problem is, you won't know they're doing it till it's done. Then it's too late. Sale's already made. Now all you can do is go challenge it and sue the seller for breach and sue the buyer. What? Buyer's innocent. Not in the lawsuit. No way you're going to sue the seller without naming the buyer. Yeah, they're innocent, but too bad. They're sucked right into it. You're going to sue the seller and the buyer. Buyer can sue the seller too. Because suing the buyer is the only leverage you got to get the seller to pay. If you understand this little old simple affidavit memorandum concerning real estate, you will block that sale from happening that you didn't know was taking place. It's a little piece of paper that simply says, I am telling the world I have a contract to purchase this property. It says, before me the undersigned authority on this day personally appeared. That would be you, because you're the one that's swearing that this affidavit is true. You are the affiant or the swearee. Before me, the undersigned authority on this day personally appeared you, who being first duly sworn, deposes and says that, 1. An agreement for the purchase and sale of the real property described as 1233 Main Street was entered to by and between the affiant, that's you as buyer, and blank as the seller on blank day, blank year. You're swearing you have an agreement. Second, you're swearing that the closing of the purchase and sale of the said agreement for the terms of this agreement is to take place on or before whatever date in your contract that it expires. And third, you're swearing that a copy of the agreement for purchase and sale of said real estate may be obtained by contacting you at your address with your telephone number. You want the world to know how to reach you so that they can call you if the seller tries to sell his property behind your back. And then you're signing this, and then you're getting it notarized, and you're getting it witnessed. And now, you better attach a legal description to it on the second page, because without the legal description, this will not attach to the property. So you must have a legal description attached. So now you go record this, and there it sits. It's literally a cloud on the title. It's a matter of public record. Now seller decides, somebody came here and offered me $20 more. I think I'm going to sell it to them. You know, this contract don't mean anything to me. I'm skipping town when it's done anyway. So now they enter into a contract with a new buyer. A new buyer gets ready to go to closing, and they have a title search done. And the title company checks the public records, and they find this affidavit. Whoa. Stop. This thing says that there's a contract pending on this property out there, and no title company in their right mind is going to close that sale and ignore this document. Because if they do, they're inviting the lawsuit. So they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to say, hey, what's this affidavit thing here? And where are they going to get the phone number? Just right on the affidavit. They say, we're about ready to sell this thing here. That seller's, we're about ready to close this deal. I said, oh, you are you? Well, I wouldn't if I were you, because I have a contract to buy it too. There goes that closing. It'll be stopped right then and there until this is dealt with. You blocked the sale and you didn't even know it was taking place. So the next thing you're going to get is a call from the seller or the seller's attorney. Probably the seller's attorney, because the seller won't have the guts to call you. The seller knows where the problem lies. The seller knows who's at fault. They don't want to face you. So you're going to get a call from the seller's attorney. You got an affidavit on public record. You better release it. Your answer is, here's my attorney's name and phone number. Don't ever call me again. Moron. First of all, if you have a contract to buy this house or option it, you have every right in the world to record that affidavit. All you're doing is saying, I got a contract. You're telling the truth. Now, of course, if you don't have a contract, do not record that affidavit. That's called slander of title. So if you record this thing and you don't have a contract, you're going to get a really nasty call from their attorney, and you better listen. That's going to be a bad hair day. So you don't record this unless you have a purchase and sale agreement. And you also don't record it unless you feel the need. I don't want this on public record just because you think you should. You don't unless you feel the need. So if you have a conversation with a seller one day and they say, hey, I wished I'd never sold that to you, it's skid marks to the courthouse. So now when that attorney calls you, there's where you're going to get a chance to show your grit. If you're new and you're afraid of attorneys, you're going to cringe. You're going to cave in. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. What do you want me to sign? However, if you're willing to stand up with a deal you made and willing to live with, but the other party isn't, you simply give their attorney your attorney's phone number, and you fax this over to your attorney. And you say, hey, you're going to be getting a call from this jerk that says that he's going to kill me if I don't release this. Would you please tell him that if he wants this released, he'll need to send you a $10,000 check to settle? Oh, that's going to piss him off. But here's the reality. If they don't pay you, they're not selling. Because they're not going to get title insurance because this is on public record. This little piece of paper will save you a lot of deals. Not a lot, a few. And I can't tell you how many people told me how much money this thing's made them. I know one guy recently got a check for $50,000 by not selling the house. by releasing this and going away. You know, of course, there was about $200,000 worth of profit in it. He settled for $50 and not have to buy the house. Nothing wrong with that, is there? Yeah, okay, let them have their deal. I don't care. Give me a check for $50. I'll do nothing. I'm happy. This piece of paper is what got him his $50,000. So don't take this little thing lightly. It's just a little, don't look like much, just a little old piece of paper, a little bit of black ink, a lot of white space. Don't look all that important. But it'll stop them cold. But please do not misuse that document. If you record that document, and even if the closing time is come and gone, will that still be a cloud on the title? Yes, it will. Could you wrongly use it for leverage to extort money out of the seller? Yes, you could. And if you do, you deserve whatever it is you get. If you haven't closed this thing because of something that you haven't done, sign whatever they want you to sign and release it. This is not a tool to extort people with. One more thing. What not to do when you're buying. Never call yourself a foreclosure consultant or accept money for services to help people save their house from foreclosure. There are laws against that in some states and more coming. Stay out of that business. It's a bad business anyway. Do not buy a house and lease it back to the owner. Ever. If you buy a house, owner must go. Or owner can stay, but without the option to buy it back. It's the option to sell it back that gets you in trouble, not leasing it back. When you give them the option, you're going to create a mess. Don't buy from the elderly or the military without legal representation. Many states have laws protecting them, as they should. The last thing I would want anybody doing, getting trained by me, is to go out and steal some property from some poor military wife sitting here while her husband is in Iraq or wherever trying to keep us alive. He's got better things to think about than you going in and taking his home while he's gone because they have some kind of financial pressure. Don't you think about buying a military house unless an attorney isn't present and you give them all the time they want to decide if that's what they want to do. And the same with the elderly. The elderly may or may not have all of their faculties, and you do not take advantage of the fact if they don't, or you think they don't, or you're not even sure. You better get an attorney involved. And in fact, if you don't, you may be committing a felony. Do not install lease option tenants in Texas. That is, if you get a non-refundable deposit. You can sell with an all-inclusive trust deed instead. And don't buy foreclosures in any state before you come familiar with a state law that may or may not be there concerning buying properties in foreclosure. There are several states who have legislation to that effect. Please check it out before you break the law, not find out after you do. And don't concern yourself with breaking the law. Look, you're out here buying houses. If you go out and do something wrong, there's very, very little chance it's ever going to come back and bite you to begin with. Our attorney generals and our state's attorneys are not looking for people who accidentally break a law that they didn't understand or know anything about. They're looking for repeated people who do it as a business, and they will take action on those. If you get an attorney on your team, you don't ever have to worry about that. For some people, just the fact that they actually could do something wrong stagnates them to the point to where they're so afraid of doing anything right. The truth is, whatever you choose to do for a business, there are laws. And you can break them if you don't get them and understand them. You know, if you're selling an information product, for example, did you know it's against the law to call people unsolicited? Unless they're your customers? Hey, if you didn't know that, you'd be breaking the law. Oh my goodness. The Gestapo will not come get you. They'll tell you to quit and alert you to the law. So don't let little things like that stop you from taking action. As a beginner, this is a seemingly complicated business. After you've been around a while, it becomes simpler and simpler and simpler and less complicated, because all the things you worry about that complicate it in your mind, most of which are not even applicable to reality. So far, we have started with step one, and we have located prospects by doing a few simple things hands off. Then we've learned to let somebody take those calls, Pat Live, and email those to us so that we can pre-screen those prospects in seconds and do away with most of them. Then we've discovered we got to get on the telephone with 2 or 3 people a week, have a conversation, and then go visit them, see if we want the house, take a little bit of paperwork with us if we do, get an agreement signed, and then come home and turn it over to our attorney to follow up with. There's nothing really that complicated here. And I can assure you, it's worth your time and effort to wade through what seems complicated now. Our next session, we're going to talk about now selling these properties that were given to us. And we're going to fix that and close the loop there, so that we don't have to lay awake night worrying about, oh golly, now I got it, what am I going to do with it? Now when we get that loop fixed, we'll come to the end of a very simple system that can be put on autopilot, that anybody can do if they want to, regardless of how much experience they've had, regardless of how much money they got to work with, or whether their credit is good, bad, or ugly. And incidentally, has anybody heard me say anything throughout our entire system so far that involves you going down and applying for a loan and having anybody check your credit? And you won't either, because it's not part of what we do.